Andor Season 2, Chapter 4. We're now in the final stretch of this show, that I'd say while most people did not want at first, many soon afterwards realized just how much Star Wars needed something like this, like Andor. And with it ending for good now, it doesn't hold back on the feels. Episode 10, Make It Stop. This episode goes into Luthen Rael's backstory, something that we've been wanting to see for quite some time now, and it reveals his transformation from an Imperial sergeant to a key figure in the rebellion. We get a flashback showing young Luthen, known at the time by his real name, which is Lear, whom after witnessing his men carry out a massacre, he in turn, having a crisis of conscience, finds a sole survivor in a young Kleya stowed away in his ship. It's there at that moment that he decides to defect the Empire and rescue her, making Kleya his trusted partner from that moment on. Then meanwhile, in the present time, Lonnie Young informs Luthen about the Death Star, something of which he only found out by snooping through Dedra's account. And after letting Luthen know everything that Lonnie knows about the Death Star, as well that the ISB is also very close to finding out about Luthen's real identity too, Lonnie then demands an out. After which Luthen promises to take Lonnie and his family away to Yavin for safety. But, rather than doing that, Luthen kills Lonnie right on the spot and leaves his body on a park bench. And this is quite a surprising moment, and most people probably didn't expect to see this, but it happens. And why exactly? Well, it's up to interpretation, but the way I see it, Luthen always saw that Lonnie lacked resolve and was ultimately a liability in some sense. So there was never gonna be a good outcome for him. Plus, I think if Luthen really felt that he could have got Lonnie out, he would have. But rather, he saw that as unlikely to happen, especially with the ISB now on their tail. And knowing the information that Lonnie knew and what he would face for being a spy on the ISB, let's just say that Luthen killed Lonnie to save him. When Luthen does arrive back at his shop, it's not long until he is confronted and captured by Dedra, who has finally put two and two together about Luthen's real identity thanks to a captured rebel prisoner. And before Luthen does get captured, I especially love the line when Dedra enters Luthen's antique shop and asks him if everything there is real inside. To which he responds, "At the moment, there are only two pieces of questionable provenance in this gallery," which, of course, he's speaking about himself and Dedra, who are both faking an act in this very moment. Yeah, it's just fantastic writing. But things don't go Dedra's way either, as due to her overconfidence of the situation, Luthen doesn't let her take him alive either. As with Dedra making the mistake of confronting him alone with a team surrounding his shop, Luthen attempts to commit seppuku in order to protect the rebellion, and in response to this, Dedra has her team take him to a nearby hospital where he is put in critical condition. And then later, Dedra orders the hospital staff that he be kept alive as she needs him for interrogation. That is, until Supervisor Hurt shows up and arrests Dedra under suspicions of her being a spy. Of which, of course, he also did not like her overstepping into his assignment and, ruining everything for him. Now, whether Hurt would have been able to figure out who Luthen really was now or even later at all, that's a different story, but regardless, she did technically ruin things for him, so yeah, he's got a bit of a point too. Now it's over here where Kleya officially takes over, and we get more of the spy thriller element again from Andor, with her going undercover as a nurse to infiltrate the hospital and try to finish Luthen off before, of course, the Empire can interrogate him. And it's a lot of fun to see her, a one-woman army, manage to pull this off. And we also got an ET Easter egg here as well, with this old ET granny. At least we can assume that she's one, since after all, ET is a race in Star Wars that appeared in the prequels, so if anything, this is probably what a female of ET's race looks like, and yeah. It's a bit of light humor to help break some of the tension that's in this scene, and there's a lot of it. But it's also during the sequence that we see more bits and pieces of flashbacks of Luthen and Kleya's past together before they moved to Coruscant, with one instance of Luthen teaching Kleya, who already wants to fight back against the Empire as a child, well, to be patient about it. And it's also during this that I like the portrayal of the Empire, where during the execution flashback scene in some town, where after a stormtrooper is killed, the Empire decides to punish the entire town by having daily executions in revenge for one fallen soldier. Which, yeah, is brutal, but it's something that actually happened during World War II many times, that the Nazis would punish an entire town like this. And while we see the Imperial Army troopers rounding people up for execution, it's really the stormtroopers who act as the firing squad. And this is another detail that I liked, as just like in World War II, it wasn't always the Wehrmacht doing the executions, but actually the SS, the most fanatical soldiers under Hitler, and, well, that's exactly what the stormtroopers are supposed to be. They're the Empire's version of that. Another great flashback scene was also the one on Naboo, which, hey, we get to see Naboo on screen in live action during the Imperial era. And it's here where Luthen shows Kleya that, well, all that patience, it pays off, as he launches his very first attack on the Empire, and of course, it's none other than on Naboo, the homeworld of Palpatine. I mean, of course, a little does Luthen know that Palpatine doesn't really care about Naboo, but hey, it's the principle of the matter that counts. Either way, in the present time, Kleya does manage to successfully ensure Luthen's death by cutting off his life support before escaping, thus making sure that the Empire will never learn of the secrets of his rebel network. Episode 11, Who Else Knows? In the aftermath of Luthen's death, Kleya operates from Luthen's Coruscant safe house, sending out a desperate communication that reaches Yavin 4. Meanwhile, Dedra faces interrogation by Krennic himself after the security breach by her, with Lonnie of course accessing her account, in turn exposing the Death Star secrets to the rebels. And of course, Dedra tries to counter back to this, but yeah, Krennic isn't having none of it, instead labeling her as a traitor and sending her off to a Narkina prison. And like that, Dedra comes to the cold realization, just like her boyfriend Cyril did, that the Empire is nothing to the Empire that she once looked up to. And like many others, she's taken and chewed out by the Imperial machine as if she was nothing. Back on Yavin, Cassian and Melshi, both now roommates, are having a chill night playing cards of K2SO. And yeah, this is a funny scene as Cassian and Melshi are just, being bros, drinking Revnog and having fun messing around with K2, who hilariously struggles with human humor over drunk-fueled banter. He doesn't really know what's going on, and I love it. Honestly, I would totally watch a short series of Cassian, Melshi, and K2 just being roommates. That would be hilarious. Anyway, word gets to them of Kleya's SOS signal, and Cassian, who has, a long history with Luthen, decides to undergo the rescue mission to extract Kleya with K2 and Melshi tagging along. But at the same time on Coruscant, the ISB managed to figure out Kleya's whereabouts, and Hurt takes a unit of ISB tactical troopers with him to try and arrest Kleya, with of course the aim of taking her alive for questioning because she's all they got left with Luthen now out of the picture. Fortunately, Cassian and Melshi manage to get to Kleya first before Hurt and the ISB do, with her telling Cassian everything Lonnie told Luthen about the Death Star and Galen Erso. As originally, Kleya's intention was for Cassian to serve as the messenger to the Alliance to send this information to them, rather than herself going to Yavin, but yeah, that's not an answer that Cassian wants to hear and even accept. Episode 12, Jedha Kyber Erso. The series finale sees Cassian, Melshi, and Kleya escaping the ISB trap in the apartment complex, and this, of course, largely, well, all mainly is thanks to K2SO, who has his moment to shine as he completely mows down every single ISB agent like they're absolutely nothing, one by one. It's a super fun scene, but also an eerie one as well, kind of almost having some horror elements to it, even to the point of giving me both alien vibes or even something like out of a Terminator movie if anything. It's just that good. And really, it makes me wish that we got to see more K2 in this series rather than, wait until the final chapter to see him with the rebellion. Although, yeah, then again, Tony Gilroy's decision to limit K2's involvement in the season is also completely fair, as he did say that having K2 in the show, well, it kills the tension and suspense, since K2 is basically an invincible Terminator here after all, and yeah, he's right. As no doubt, this whole scene would have been a lot more suspenseful if it were just Cassian and Melshi versus the ISB Tactical Squad with no K2 to save the day. But even so, yeah, I love this sassy droid, and if there's any opportunity to have more of him in it, I want that. Anyway, Cassian manages to bring Kleya to Yavin and delivers Luthen's final intel to the Rebel Alliance, setting the stage for the mission to steal the Death Star plans that we later see in Rogue One. Now on Yavin, we get a lot of difference of opinion and a lot of the same political garbo here that we've seen in Rogue One, where none of the Rebel Council could agree to believe Jyn Erso, and this time it's the same story with Cassian. And of course, this all largely stems from the Alliance just not liking or trusting Luthen at all. Meanwhile, back on Coruscant, Partagaz tenders his resignation as the head of the ISB in the most final terms possible, as due to having failed to keep the Death Star plans from being leaked out. And in his final moments, he does listen back to a recording of Karis Nemik's manifesto back from Season 1. And even us, listening in on it as the viewers, it really starts to dig on just how deep and powerful Nemik's manifesto really was, especially after everything that we've gone through this season alone. And with so many scenes that have taken place in this show's vision of Imperial bureaucracy, Partagaz's final conversation with Supervisor Lagret is loaded with subtext. As when Partagaz asks for a moment to collect his thoughts before being arrested to face either the likes of Vader or Palpatine himself, it's here that neither man has any illusions about what this truly means or is about to happen. And I liked how when Partagaz does decide to kill himself, Lagret fully expects it and even tells the stormtroopers to calm down. As well, it's better Partagaz goes out like this than the alternative. And another thing that I also noticed is as the series goes on, you can clearly also see how the ISB is slowly dwindling in numbers. As think about it, in Season 1 they have like a full room of agents and attendants, but towards the end here, in Season 2, there are only like a few of them left. The department eventually falls into complete disarray, reduced to a single empty room. Even the ISB leader, Partagaz, ends up taking his own life. It's subtle details like these that really do stand out on a second viewing, and that's just something I really do like about the series. You keep discovering new layers with each rewatch. The episode then concludes with a poignant montage, directly leading us to the events of Rogue One, and this was very much expected. But at the same time, I was just curious to see how they would get it done, and boy, was it emotional. As Cassian waters his plants before embarking on a mission to meet Tivik on Kafrene that will end up verifying Luthen's final tale to the Alliance. As he walks through the Yavin 4 base, you see X-Wings flying in the back, Rebel fleet troopers, Rebel Marines, and Rebel Pathfinders patrolling in the background. I love seeing that. And as Andor passes by many of the show's important characters too, which many we will see later in Rogue One, like for example we see Melshi training with his troops for the fight later ahead of them on Scarif, Mon Mothma and Vel planning for the next day of the struggle, Kleya waking up to a sunrise her stepfather never got to see, and a trace of a smile playing at the edges of her eyes as she sees the rebellion that was built thanks to her and Luthen's sacrifices. But things don't stop there, as also outside of Yavin, we see Saw Gerrera looking out at Jeddah City from his partisan base camp, counting down to his final days, while Orson Krennic gazes lovingly at the Death Star that will eventually, unknowingly, take his life. And Dedra? Well, Dedra meets the true face of the Empire at last. You could say her ending was deserved and she got everything she had coming to her. And I mean, well, Blevin even did say to her in Season 1 that when she falls, she will fall alone, and she did. She lost her family when she was young, Cyril and Gorman, and finally her ISB career. She had nothing in the end. And to top things off, there's a moment of grace amidst the wheat fields of Mina-Rau, where we do see B2 once again, a symbol of innocence, free and allowed to play with his droid buddies. It's good to see that even after Cassian, abandoned him, he's still living the life. And as well, walking through that gorgeous pale expanse, there's Bix, holding Cassian's child, safe and free in a galaxy apparently at peace, but also a sign of hope for the future as well. And well, what can I say? This is, on the whole, a rather fine finale, a satisfying conclusion to the story that Tony Gilroy has been telling with the second season of this show. Yeah, it's a bit sentimental, and maybe some could argue a touch too soft for a series that could feel bracingly harsh at times, but it's executed with the usual dedication to excellence that we've come to know and expect from it. Now, is it perfect? No. And neither was Season 1, at least in my opinion. And while Season 2 does help fix some of the problems that I had with Season 1, such as the overabundance of British accents and the lack of aliens, it's still far from where I would have wanted it to be. That, and well, in a perfect world, I definitely would have preferred to see the original 4 or 5 season plan of Andor than having everything rushed and condensed into just 2 seasons. I mean, I would have loved to have seen more of Saw's partisans in actions, running missions, same with the Rebel Alliance. As well, see on screen some of the missions that Cassian did for either Luthen or the Alliance that only get mentioned but never actually shown. But yeah, I know that's asking a lot, and still, for what we did get, I am satisfied. Sure, I had my complaints about the slow start of Andor Season 2, but as I expected and was right, everything that followed afterwards was powerful and absolutely worth the wait. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty let down by Ahsoka and especially the Acolyte. But watching a show like Andor take such bold swings and deliver in this way has been one of the true highlights of Star Wars television, for me at least. And just like that, the road to Rogue One is complete. But the emotional legacy of Andor is something that much more deeper. It's not just about the rebellion, it's about the cost of resistance, the pain of betrayal. The series dared to ask what freedom demands and answered with fire, blood, and hope. And that was my take on this final chapter of Andor. Let me know what you all thought about this chapter in the comments below, and if you haven't done already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.